Welcome to another episode of Angels, Positivity and Love from Idaho. We've got an incredible guest who's all about tapping into your inner guidance system, your inner GPS. She's got a couple of books on the topic. She's been on Coast to Coast AM 4, 5, 6 times by now. She's been around for a while too, doing this for well over a decade. I'd like to welcome to the show Zen Cryar-DeBrücke, if you want her full name, but coming to us from Idaho. Thank you very much, Zen, for coming on the show.
Hi, Michael. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Well, I'm super excited to have you on. You've got an extensive background, but also in corporate America, we'll call it the .com, what later became the .com bubble. So you've had just this incredibly wild path. Can you take us through when you first learned that you had, I don't know what to call it, extra talent?
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't think when I first learned it, when I was born, I was having a conversation with God for the whole time. And I would get all kinds of information, how-tos, don't do that. I've given people to talk to, solving problems, right, for people. And I didn't know that that wasn't what was going on for everybody. And it's not like some other voice. It was a thought that would come in that would have information that I didn't have before the thought came in, right? And it was always producing good fruit. Like when I followed it, amazing things happened. And I was really particularly good with animals and with working with animals. And because of this, this voice, this thought pattern, which I knew to be God, even before we didn't even go to church until I was like 7 or 8, but somehow it wasn't a big part of our household, but I knew it was God. It's just a very interesting aspect. And I didn't really know that that wasn't a part of everyone's experience until I was about 13, and it was 8th grade, and a girlfriend of mine got herself into trouble. And I asked her, I said, oh, well, let's find out what God says for you to do. And she goes, what are you talking about? And I was like, the voice, the thoughts that come in. And she's like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. So I sat down and prayed and asked the voice, God, what she should do. And it helped her and got her out of trouble. But then I became the weirdo a little bit after that. She told people. So I kind of cut it off thinking there was something wrong for a few years. Now, I came from a really bad traumatic background in my life. And that started to take hold in my teenage years. And so I ended up leaving my home thinking that all the drama in my house would end, all the drama in my life would end when I left my household. But it didn't. I kind of took it with me. And I was in this self-sabotage mode because of the amount of anger and rage and hurt that I had. So I would do things like get in a fight with a roommate and say my protection mode was, fine, I'm going to take my toys and go home. So I'd say, I'm going to leave. I'm going to, punish you. Not literally say that, but that's what I meant. Punish you by not being your roommate anymore. I'd cool down the next day and then say, I'm sorry, I don't want to leave. And they're like, no, go. I don't want your stuff anymore. I don't want your attitude. So one day in 1993, after this was like 5 years of trying to make it on my own from 17 to 22, somebody gave me a cassette tape from Abraham-Hicks. And they wanted me to know about the law of attraction, that I was, in the way that I was living my life and the energy that I had, I was generating this life that I was miserable in. And what happened though is this was at a time where they didn't even have a business. Abraham had just come into Esther Hicks' world about 2 or 3 years earlier. They were still doing like living room question and answer sessions with people and like recording them and reproducing them and sending them out, right? And so she said, somebody asked, how do I get through this life in the most successful way? And she said, when you are in an alignment with your most highest successful future, that you have an expanded, open, centered feeling. But when you are actually creating a life where it's going to be unsuccessful, that you have a tight, constricted, lockdown feeling in your body. And I recognized immediately that whenever I had done something that caused me a lot of pain or ruined the progress I had in my life, that tightness was there. So I went on a quest to figure out how to find the most successful life by being in an expanded state. And I couldn't figure it out. Like I called them and they're like, we don't have anything. We don't know. We just answer questions. Like there was nothing. I went to the library because this was back in 92, 93. And it was like, I went to the library and she's like, well, it sounds like anxiety is what you're feeling. I don't know. So I was checking stuff out. Finally, I went back to my connection with God. I dropped in and I was like, what is going on? Help me. And the two of us together, we decoded what I call the internal guidance system. And every human being is born with it. I now believe it's actually the Holy Spirit that was given to us. And when we have a lump in our throat, a tightness in our chest, or a sick feeling in the solar plex of our stomach, they have three different types of information. What it means is that what we're thinking is out of alignment with our divine soul and our divine purpose. And so I like it to like you, here's you in your divine perfect state, which we can play with today with your peeps. And what happens is our mind and our thinking and our old programming, it'll start leading us astray. And when we're getting so far off track, we feel anxiety, worry, fear, overwhelm, frustration, irritation, procrastination, defensiveness, resistance, guilt, shame. All of that is actually guidance that what we're thinking is moving us away from the perfect source of center of who we were born to be. And so what I did is over the past it's like 30 years, for myself first and then for others, I created a series of practices so that when we feel that, we can assess what it is and get right back into center as quickly as possible. And you do this as you move through your day so that it's called flow, feeling light, open, and wise. And you stay in a centered experience of flow as you move through your life. And anytime you feel a tightness, you stop, check in, and then autocorrect right back. Now, here's the coolest thing, Michael. When you stop and you correct and you go back, you actually start a new neural pathway. And those old patterns of thinking that lead you away from your life of perfection and divine success, they begin to go neurally extinct. I didn't know that until the late 2000s when all the neurology stuff started coming in and I started looking at what is really going on here. So here's the coolest thing. We were all, every human being, born with an innate system that reprograms the neural pathways of our mind as we move through our day. We have the ultimate power to transform the human species within our own life every single day. And so realizing that, what I discovered is everything that closes us, causes the tightness, is all centered in fear. And fear is what's creating everything that's devastating our own personal lives and the planet. And so right now I'm in the process of creating a 1,000-year mission that we will execute on together as a team to evolve the human species out of fear forever. And my vision is that someday this period of time will be taught and they'll be talking about fear. And the teacher will say to the young kids, and that's what we did. We evolved ourselves out of fear. And the little girl will say, what does fear feel like? And the teacher will say, we don't know. Nobody's ever felt it before. We only feel love. So that's what I do. And that's where it's come from. And
I love it. The time is now. Share with us a little bit about the cosmos, the universe, our hearts, compassion, gentleness, kindness. How big is all this and how available is it to everybody right now?
it's actually like only a few moments away in any second, right? And so one of the very first things, actually the very first thing that I work with people on in my programs is we first stop and we drop in. I call it dropping into your listening. It's a process where you feel your feet. You can do it with me right now. The bottoms of your feet, you'll feel, everybody that's listening, if you want to do this with me, please do. Be great for the show. You feel the bottom of your feet. Notice they're tingling. There's a little warmth.
I'm wiggling.
Yeah. And then your palms of your hands. Notice if there's any energy there, a little warmth, little energy, right? And then listen to the room around you while you're feeling your hands and feet. Let's just do that for 5 seconds. Do you feel that presence inside of you? There's like an energy, maybe a little vibration, a little humming. I call it yumminess. Okay, that yumminess is always present in every living cell, in every cell of the universe. That yumminess is the core of everything. And what's happened is that we chose to create these minds to rediscover who we are, right? So we lost ourselves by going out with our minds and exploring the world and our bodies and all of that. And the only thing that takes us away from that yumminess that you just felt is our thinking. And so every single moment of our existence, that yumminess is right there. It never leaves us. It never changes. It never morphs into something different. It's always loving. It's always healing. It's always healthy. It has all the answers and all the divine wisdom that you need in any given moment. And then what happens is that as we begin to think, right, throughout our day, you leave that yumminess a little bit, not physically, it's still there. You're just not attuned to it. So what happens is you'll start thinking about, I want a cup of coffee, or I need to get some food, or, this text comes in about something you have to do, or there's a problem in your life. And we as humans, we have learned to follow this mental energy as our guidance, as our source of existence. And so we go through and we forget that this yumminess is there, and we move and move and move and move from thought to thought to thought to thought. Well, the real gift and the new thing that we're being asked to do in order to right the things in the world that we are unhappy with, that are creating suffering, is to stop. And instead of using the mind, there's a practice where you drop into the listening, into that yumminess, and you wait. And you just wait. And what'll happen is, and it's actually easier for people to do than most people would ever believe. You can do it within a 15-minute conversation and practice. You wait, and there's a thing that wells up, and it will move you. It's like when you're going through your day and you suddenly realize you need to call someone, and you're like, oh, and you just pick up the phone and you do it. And there's no thought to it. You just thought that the movement comes, you grab the phone, you do it. And they're like, I was just thinking about you. Well, of course they were, right? And so the whole experience of what human has the opportunity to do is to go moment to moment through flow, from this opening to this opening to this opening. And so when there's a thought that comes in, and as long as it's moving you into the opening, awesome, just keep going. But if something comes in, something jars you from the outside and it takes you out of this place, you close down. Stop and go, what was that? It took me out of flow. So it took me out of being in the perfect place at the perfect time, doing the perfect thing for the perfect life that I want to live. You deal with it, and then you get back to the yumminess and the flow. Now, I have run big multi-million-dollar companies. I've worked with some of the biggest executives in billion-dollar companies. I have worked with stay-at-home moms who are homeschooling. This works no matter where you are. In fact, it works better than anything else because it knows it works on a divine timing. And so as you're flowing through your experience, because there's no resistance, the world around you is lining things up, literally like throwing in that parking space and bringing in the money that you need and having the contact that you didn't know that you needed that wasn't there 15 minutes ago until you walked into Starbucks and were standing in line and started joking with somebody. And the next thing you know, they've got the exact apartment that you need to be living in right in the neighborhood that you're supposed to be in to meet your mate, that you end up marrying and having that incredible kid. See, like this whole thing happens when we get out of the way. And the only thing that we're supposed to do in our lives ever is to stay in the yumminess and work with the mind when it gets in the way to bring it back to the flow. And so that to me is like the ultimate experience of the way that we're intended to live. And it's not very far away. It's right here. We have it. It's right here. Just a matter of commitment and taking a little time to learn about it.
Synchronicity, serendipity, thinking something is the only block to being connected to the universe with no barriers, or your heart, or all that is, or whatever terminology it is, but the flow state.
Yeah. And thinking's not bad.
No, it's not going away either.
No, ever. No, it's just a matter of corralling it and keeping it moving into the direction that creates open. It's the thinking that creates the opening and the closing. And so you want the thinking, you just want the thinking to create the opening.
So can you reassure us, like, love's a constant, open your eyes to see love, or just breathe or smile? There's a million ways to get to here. But can you remind us how there's like nothing to gain here? There's nothing to lose. Like, move past the whole, is it zero sum game? Move past seeing the negative. Just, it is. It's totally available to you, whether you're in the Bahamas, whether you're about to take the trash out. It's just here. And can you remind us how simple it is? I mean, you've lived and breathed it and you've been teaching it now for a long time. But how like obvious, how simple, how right in front of us or within us or everything. Like, can you just give us a pep talk on that?
Yeah. So we can get ourselves into some pretty painful things, right? Most of it has to do with all of it has to do with our mind. And what happens is when you're born, you feel things from the outside, like pricks and pokes and dirty looks and, yelling and whatever. And you start to see the outside world as being something that needs to be changed. Like if the outside world is safe, then I'm safe. But the truth of the matter is that you're always safe. You always have that yummy feeling, no matter where you are, accessible, right? It is the core consistent. So even when you get yourself into this place where your thinking is deep in suffering, you're ruminating on things that are painful, right? You're still in the process of learning and experiencing who you are as a being. We didn't come down here to just live in love. Otherwise, we would have stayed where we were. We came down here to figure out who we are and to actually physically experience this world and become masters of that experience. So I'm going to give you an example. My mom committed suicide when I was 23. It was a combination of 2 medications that we didn't know would create a suicidal experience for her. But I didn't know that combination for 10 years existed either. So all of a sudden, my mom died and I didn't know that she was in that state. So not only did I lose my mom, who was my best friend, but I lost my best friend who I didn't know was in pain. I remember about 2 days after the funeral, I couldn't function. And I was laying on the living room floor after my boyfriend had gone to work, wailing, thank God we lived in the country, like an animal because I was in so much pain, curled up in a ball. And I had just found this work. It had been about 8 months before this. So I was trying to find the openings. I was playing with it. And whenever I would be thinking about woes me, who's going to be there when I have my babies, who's going to be there for me for, Christmas, how much I was going to miss her, how I couldn't survive in a world without her. There was a safety blanket for me with her. I felt this wrenching sense of closing and tightening, like someone was twisting a rope inside my body. But whenever I thought about the beautiful things of who she was and what she gave me in our lifetime and the funny things that she said and how she believed in me, I felt this expansive rush of love and energy. Now, the grieving was still there. The wailing was still happening. But the experience was cathartic in one place and destructive in the other. And that's the first time that I realized how deeply it's our thinking that creates the experience, because the grief with the opening was beautiful. And the grief with the closing was the darkest thing I'd ever felt. So in our lives, like you're saying, where everything is okay and everything's there, even if I had stayed in the darkness of the bitterness and pity, I was still in the process as a soul of figuring out what was important to me. And I went back and forth and I'd feel it. And sometimes I couldn't get out of the pity and the darkness until I came up with the thought that it's all love. Now, I'm not a woo-woo person. I'm actually super practical. You have to beat me over the head with the woo-woo. Okay. I really am like this A-type personality business person. But sometimes the woo-woo is just so loud, you can't ignore it anymore. And so what I discovered is that both were rooted in love. The only reason I felt the pity and darkness was because I was not loving myself, and I loved her so much that I could barely live without her. And same with the lightness, which was love. And so it doesn't really matter where you're at or what you're in, like you're saying that everything's okay all the time. No matter where you are, there is still that connection to love. Even in the darkness, it was because I loved her so much. So even when you're going through something, what I work with my students on is there are things that are universally opening, meaning they create the expansion. And one of the universal truths that's always opening is, I don't know how, but this is going to end up being the best thing that could have ever happened to me. It's always opening because it's always true, no matter what happens. We've all heard the beautiful, story of the guy whose son finds this horse. He brings it in and the villagers are all, yay, yay. You got a new stallion. And the old man says, maybe it's good, maybe it's not. And then he goes to break the stallion and he breaks his leg and he can't help him on the farm to, bring in the crops. And they go, oh, you have such bad luck. You lost your son. He broke his leg. Maybe, maybe not. And then the military comes in to take all the young men because he has a broken leg. His son doesn't go, and all the men end up dying in the war. And they say, oh, you're so lucky. Your son didn't have to go off to war. Maybe, maybe not. We don't know how, but everything is always operating and it's always going to end up being the best thing that could have happened. And the second that something goes awry, that your mind, not you, because the center of you is the yumminess. Always. It's the true you. And it has the true you of wisdom. So the second something goes awry and your mind wigs out and it starts looking and creating dire futures and dire places where your life is going to be completely trashed now, you stop and say, I don't know how, but this is going to end up being the best thing that could have happened. The faster the universe can work on your behalf to write it. Because as long as you're not buying into the lie that this really is a bad thing, and I'm not talking woo-woo here, I'm talking this is a universal truth of energy and the way that energy creates and flows. The second that you don't buy into it as being a real thing, and you move back into the consciousness that everything's always happening to be the greatest good you could achieve, everything begins to right itself every time. And the opening flow of the body that happens when you make a statement like that literally is your divine essence coming into agreement and giving permission for the best to happen to you. And then it does.
I love it. And I'm going to do like 7 little mini 2-second thoughts. Is that so? From Japanese Zen, whenever something happens, good or bad, perceived, but wait and see. J.K. Rowling, living in her car, goes on to pen her stories for her little kid, and you know the rest. Ego is a temporary lack of compassion. Faith is not knowing in life while letting go and loving. And that's from Angels, but faith could be religious faith, not religious faith. It doesn't matter. It's getting from here to here, letting go. And then final one, love is what allows us all to see the contrast and appreciate all the different colors. How about that? Can you talk to us about, again, this growth and expansion that even with success or failure, we get stuck no matter what. It's called thinking, and we're going to keep doing it. It's going to keep happening because it's our opportunity in each moment to let go more. Can you talk to us about this, how life is meant to be continued growth and expansion? There's a trillion layers of consciousness or compassion or kindness or gentleness or humor or joy ahead of us to unfold still if you pay attention. Can you take us that direction if that's okay?
Yeah, well, that's the thing is if you're still alive, you're still growing. I mean, that's it. It doesn't matter. My
tried
mom,
their darndest for decades or even
yeah.
a lifetime.
Am I allowed to cuss on this show?
Well,
One little word.
Let's not.
Okay, then I'll
Okay.
change it, but I want you guys to put it in your own head because it's funnier if I'm allowed to cuss. My mom used to say, sweetie, for the rest of your life, you're going to find all of your stuff, use other word.
Oh yeah.
And then you're going to forget where you put it. You're going to get all your stuff together and then you're going to forget where you put it. So just get used to the ebbs and flows. The biggest thing that she wanted to warn me of, she was so brilliant. The biggest thing that she used to warn me of is thinking that I had it all figured out and everything was now going to be okay. She said, I don't want you to wait. I do not want you to wait for the other shoe to drop, but I just want you to know that that's just not the way life goes. Everything will be wonderful. And then all of a sudden it won't. And it's you being able to be good with both the being wonderful and it not being wonderful that's going to give you the happiest life you could possibly ever have. And so that's the thing. We didn't come here for joy and happiness and everything to be yummy and great. We actually, I believe, from what I've researched and known from like a lot of near-death experiences and great wisdom traditions throughout the world and even the Bible, I think that there's stuff that was taken out of the Bible about reincarnation personally, but you know, I believe before we get here that we set up our challenges, we set up our enemies, we set up our friends, we set everything up. So that way, at some point in time, we get jarred into something that we wouldn't normally do so that we can grow. And it's in the growth and how we do it, you know, and sometimes we do it well and we end this lifetime in a hurrah, hooray. I forgave and I got rid of my grievances and I loved when it was hard and I found love of myself and I sacrificed for those that I love in ways that I never dreamed I could. And I took the high road and the integrity road. And then sometimes we come in and we're the person that's the jarring one. And it may look like we're failing. We're not integrous. We lie. we deceive, we hurt others, we don't show up, we hurt our bodies, we hurt ourselves, and everybody around us has to watch it and be a part of it. But how are you going to have an enemy unless somebody plays the enemy? And so at the end of that, you still have a hurrah. I fulfilled my role. I challenged them a lot. I took them to the mat. I conquered them for some people out there. I broke them. Now this time I want to come back and fix me. One time, and this isn't probably something I get emotional, I'm sorry. One time I had this vision as I was like trying to figure all this stuff out. And this may not be happy for some people. And if just please be your own person and notice if you're closed when I say that, that means what you're thinking about me is not true. But I was in this vision and I was being talked to about teams. I'm on the joy team. And we all have teams. There's a lot of them, more than I'm saying, but there's beauty, there's joy, there's self-love, there's forgiveness, there's compassion, there's all these teams. And so I was being given this vision of this war table, you know, the old fashioned ones where you have troops coming in this way and there's mountains and there's this, and everybody is looking at the table and it's a picture of Earth. And somebody comes over and says, we really are having a problem with compassion and forgiveness in this area. We need to do something. And what they told me is that it's in the human body that we make the choice to do something that expands archetypical energy. So my life's had a lot of suffering, and my being on the joy team means in the suffering, I have to recalibrate and come back to joy. And every time I recalibrate and come back to joy, I expand and evolve the archetypical energy of joy for the collective of the whole of the universe. And so we'll get these places where we get trapped. And so they're looking at this one area and they go, okay, we're going to have to create something. Let's do a genocide over there. All right, Rwanda, we're going to do a genocide. Who's going to come in and do this? Who's going to do that? And they start creating this whole thing. And the person over here stands up. They're like, Hitler, sit down. You did it last time. And then the person steps up and they said, okay, I'm going to go do this, but don't forget who I really am. We won't. And in that coming back through, we as a collective consciousness learn forgiveness and compassion.
Someone once said to me, what a brave soul it took to come in as a historical figure. And the historical figure would be one that we'd all be like, yeah, bad person, no bueno, and so on. What I'd like to do right now is we're going to sidestep in a different direction. I'll blow some sage your way. It's a staple of the show. It takes 30 seconds. But if you've never done this before, we're just watching Zen DeBrücke for the first time in Idaho and coming in and saying, my name is Michael Ford in Texas. I help people let go to hear, feel, see angels, your relatives, cosmos, beings of light. But also, I need to mention a little public service announcement for the show. Please hit that subscribe button, like, comment, share. And what if you reacted to in a fantastic way to what Zen is sharing with us? We're going to get to her 2 books in just a second too. But right now, I've only got one little rule, which before the show we played around a little bit. I totally forgot to say it out loud. I will not forget it here. Give yourself a break for any of this. If you want to smell sage through 2 screens as a guest on 40-something shows, I did this over the last 2 years, all over the globe. It doesn't matter if it's 2028, and that's when we're getting millions of views on this show. So welcome. Catch a little bit of sage, but why settle for linear? Zen's all about this too. Go for broke, or go for the gusto, or go gung-ho. Let angels, the universe, cosmos, your relatives, Jesus, everybody bring you some flowers on top of it. Why not some ocean smell as well? Go 3-tiered here. Smell what you can smell, feel what you can feel. Don't judge. Only thinking something, as she would mention, can get in the way of all this. So have a little fun. And why not catch this later in the day without lighting anything? Ask the universe to bring you, lavender, get tingles everywhere. You're getting it. Do you mind using words to describe for 10 seconds what you're getting?
I smell like ocean. I smell blueberries.
I love it.
I smell the sage, the smokiness.
Yay.
Yeah.
And we are going to get to your 2 books because I want to make sure people understand for your inner GPS and also the smart soul that you just plug them so people understand which one may be first or what it's about quickly. I'm going to put Joy up, a photo of an angel. She can either give you a quick topic to talk to us about. You can feel the energy, catch flowers, or she'll relay something you'll relay to us, because you're totally intuitive and about helping people unlock their own ability to listen, which they're doing all the time.
Yes.
If you're making a salad and you're the best Caesar salad maker and your whole family and audience and guests are waiting for it around the corner, they all know it's fantastic. They're ready to eat like dogs. That is the degree of difficulty, is just following that flow, whether it's on the athletic field, reading a book. That's the degree of difficulty for what we're talking about here, listening and feeling and seeing. What are you getting from Joy? She's an angel. She's everybody's, ambassador, communicator to help you let go. And all you, Zen.
All right. So what am I getting from Joy?
Yeah.
Really just expansive openness and asking questions of your divine self and writing them out so that you can get answers from something other than your mind today.
I love it. Let's plug one of your books. How about the first one, The Smart Soul?
So The Smart Soul is my first book, and it is smaller and has less detail in it than the next book. So they're kind of the same book in a lot of ways. I would go for Your Inner GPS, like the GPS in a car. That is a manual on how to work with your mind to stay in the opening and flow. And so the book is written to give you an understanding of what the internal guidance system is, which is what the expansion and contraction is. It's also the Holy Spirit, and it's the same thing as, and it's in other traditions as well. It's talked about, but I'm just for those of you who out there who might be from that tradition. And it walks you through practices to use it in your life in a myriad of different ways, in a bunch of different situations that might be painful or where that suffering is showing up and you just kind of don't know how to find your mind, how to move your mind back into that opening flow. So it's a manual. And then also for your listeners and your people who are watching us, this new mission of a fear-free human is we're just starting it in 2024. This is the year. And I literally am coming up with a 1,000-year plan where I'm looking with other people, like, how are we going to keep this going past me? The conversation that we no longer need fear. We have a tool to eliminate it. And fear comes from the mind. I'm not talking physical fear. There's physical tiger fear, right? But even tiger fear is opening. If you're really in danger, you'll feel an opening to get out of it, that you feel this rush. But mental fear is what we're dealing with. It's when the person doesn't text you back and you freak out all day long, or that bill that you don't have the money for is driving you crazy and keeping you up at night. It's the mental fear that keeps us human beings limited on this planet. And so the key here is that I want to share with your listeners an experience called Fear-Free Experience. Go to fearfreeexperience.com, type in Michael in the coupon code, and you will get the free course. I mean, not the free course, you'll get the course for free. And it's 7 practices to walk you through being completely fear-free in your life, understanding how this physically feels as you go through your day. Because the more people we get understanding that fear is instantly released when you step back into wisdom and truth, the faster that we're going to be able to take this planet and be flowing in wisdom and truth and love only. Because anytime that comes up, we just get rid of it. We just know it's guidance to move our thinking in a different direction. That's all fear is: worry, anxiety, overwhelm. Your thoughts are out of alignment, and this divine wise part of yourself is ministering you to come back into alignment with what's true and who you truly are in life. So those are the 2 things that are really important for me to give to you guys. And get the book. The book's amazing. It's got the nuts and bolts that you'll need, and then the fear-free experience will give you the actual feeling and me walking you through it. And we do coaching calls every other week, so you can come and ask questions and be a part of the community and all of it.
Nice. And your 2016 book, Your Inner GPS, is by New World Library with a foreword by Sonia Chiquette, who's a lot of fun. I think she's living in Paris these days, having a blast.
She'd love to do your show.
Oh, well, I'd love to get her on. I don't know if I might have sent 1 invite, but it sometimes takes 3 invites over a year or 2 to get folks on. I'll put Archangel Michael up, a photo of him one way, but I'll try to show a photo of 4 archangels another way, because it's not about any one way with these photos. And just to make the point, here's 4 archangels one way as a good old, sort of college American equivalent. When this started happening to me 12 or 13 years ago, I grabbed a Sure Shot camera. I used to hand it to folks. You can take photos of angels, just lighten up, play ball with your dog. But you can see full on out your window too. Here's Archangel Michael more formally. And people can put their hand out and feel what they feel. But if you don't mind getting one more little area we forgot to touch on, being a healing presence for others, or just being a presence, a loving presence, kindness, non-judgmental, how that just opens everything up for others. You could just be sipping on coffee and be peaceful, and your field goes out 2 tables away.
Absolutely.
Can you touch on how like capable we all are if we just breathe more, allow more, get out of our own way?
Yes. So the answers are always there. Like that, this whole dropping into the listening we did earlier, like the more that you can, okay, first of all, that it's so much more powerful than you think. I ask people to drop into their listening, walking through grocery stores, going anywhere in their world. You can, there's a breathing technique where you can expand that energy out, like to envelop a whole freeway. So you're just driving on through, cleaning everybody's dirt out, right? And giving it up to the angels and God. You just like clean it, or down into the earth is another good one. So this energy is real. And the cacophony of our minds is creating the chaos on the planet. So the more someone can just drop in, feel your feet, feel your hands, listen to the sound around you, because there's two senses. And whenever you activate two senses fully, that's what we're doing, the mind quiets. And when the mind quiets, the divine arrives or expands inside. It doesn't arrive, it's already there. And when that expansion and that arrival happens, it starts to move out of you, and it counteracts all the chaos of the cacophony of other people's minds. Opening begets opening. So when you feel that expanded center in your body, okay, that opening begets opening. And what happens is the person around you will open, right? And when you're closing begets closing. So when you come home from work, and everything's great, and you and you come across somebody else in your household, and you're like, rah, all of a sudden out of nowhere, and you're like, I was fine until I saw you. No, that person's in it, and you got sucked in. Well, you can do it the other way too, where you drop it. You're in the middle of something. I've done it in like bars where I used to do it, where I'd sit, somebody's starting to get in a fight, and I just drop in, expand, and just be really centered and breathe into it, and I watch things come down. So we have that power. That's not a special gift. It's our birthright. It's our birthright to be able to affect each other. And that's why it's super important to be responsible with it. Closing begets closing, opening begets opening. And it's our job, and it's not always easy. It's okay if you don't get it right, but it works. It works. And there's lots of science out there that dropping into this state changes things dramatically when enough of us do it. It really changes things. Like they've had less crime in cities when we drop into it. There's been wars that have been stopped when they drop into it. There's all kinds of things possible. We have so much more possible within our little generating energy beingness and bodies than we would ever dream. And we're on the cusp of capturing that and transforming our lives in the world with it. And so know that even though it looks really hopeless out there, I don't think it is. I'm open, which means that's the truth, that we are in the process of having every problem that we need to have solved by each of us giving our contribution to make the world amazing. If the problems don't show up and you don't know what to fix, you don't know what to work on, and that we're being this is a gift. It's always, like you said earlier, everything's always happening, right? And it's going to end up being the best thing that could have happened. And it's our job to shift that energy in the moment and declare it over and over again, and then look at what we are here to do in order to be a part of the solution, a part of this graceful, extraordinary thing that we want to create together.
Beautiful. So more awareness is on the horizon for mankind. It's already here. You just have to blow your role. With your permission, I'm going to do the Celestine prophecy thing. They do it this way. I'll put my fingers out. You'll see some light energy, my energy, only the highest intent. But in India, they do it this way. It's awkward because I'm going to stand and you won't see me. But see some light. And then if you want, folks at home, just put your hand up like you're admiring a diamond ring. Give yourself permission to ask angels to help you if you need extra help. You don't. Your heart already knows what to do. It's seeing without seeing, the Zen thing. You'll see color light, blue, green, pink, purple, whatever. Ask Joy. If you need any extra help, ask her to jump into your body. It's also good for a tennis stroke, hit a winner. Not suggesting cheating at the local tournament. Okay. See what you can see. And one dad joke. Bert and Ernie, Sesame Street. Bert offers Ernie ice cream. What's Ernie say? Sure, Bert. See a little bit of light between my fingers. And what are you seeing there, Zen?
A little bit of static, like a line, like a spider web. A little bit of like a thicker spider web moving around.
Any color?
Yeah, it's like silvery, like a silvery color. Yeah.
Cool. People can play it over, but if your twin sister does it, you do it. You can each be half the glow stick, and you're doing it all the time, connecting to people. So really chillax. I'm not suggesting smoking something, but eating establishments and movie theaters are the best for flowing, but you can see that a football field apart. I'm going to put Joy up one last time to spark you for one reminder and one last area to close this show out. maybe enthusiasm, allowing, just giving yourself a break, not trying, less taking so many steps in life. And you actually end up accomplishing more. I don't know how else to say it. I'm channeling a little. What's joy got for us, Zen? And this is right up your alley.
Even if you don't do anything in your life, you're still going to succeed. You're still going to make it. It's still going to be great. There's nothing to do. The only thing we have here is playground. It's a playground. And so you're supposed to be playing. And so all the other people's thoughts inside your head that they put into you over the years about what you have to do in order for you to be a successful human are all lies. The only thing you need to do to be a successful human is to do what you love and be the most incredible you can be. That's it. And even if it's sitting on a couch, you're doing it. There's nothing to be done. You're successful already. You came here successful. Even to get into this planet means that you are a success.
Oh, wow. And I didn't even think of it that way. That's a good one. And I'll mention it this way. Angels said this. Anything that I said that was sharp or accidentally sharp was literally Angels after 12 or 13 years of this. But you can be happy now in this very moment without a single reason. That's the holy hand grenade, because a but will come up. You're thinking once to say, but wait a second, abroad in this country, this political party, turn on the news, or my neighbor or me, I'm not worthy. You know, you can be happy now in this very moment without a single reason. So you've got the
hold on 1 second.
here.
Yeah, last thing, that yumminess is always there. You can always drop into the yumminess. It never leaves you. It's always there. Even in your darkest moments, you can just remember, like, there's a little sparkle that happens and goes, oh, I have the yumminess. I'm just going to feel my feet and the tingling on the bottom, feel my palms and the tingling in my palms, listen to the room around me as an experience, and let my yumminess come take care of me.
And
Let
can't
that
people
divine
go back
presence.
to any point in their life, like not every childhood is fantastic, but there was a point where you're like, I'm going to climb that tree. I'll be an astronaut. I'll be president of the United States. You had no limits at some point, or it was in your teens, or the person in high school. They're like, I was a varsity letter. That was the heyday. But that experience never left you. It wasn't external. It was always here. Can you do it one last, just flip the pancake for us and give us that same pep talk the same way? Your flow state never left you.
It never left you. And all those dreams and all those things, they're still a part of you. In fact, they're a core part of you. There's an essence of that never leaves. In fact, that's when you actually drop into flow, it's your next opening desire. That is how the divine leads us. You're supposed to flow from the next desire to the next desire to the next desire to the next desire that are opening, right? And so all those desires that you had in your kid, those were really, really important. In fact, I do recommend you reconnect with them, dream about them, sit in them, marinate in them with the yumminess and the feeling inside of you, because that's what, like I said, the law of attraction is real. As we move this energy out and we just stay in this flow of openness, everything can get to us. And so marinating in those energies of what you wanted to be when you were a kid allows it to show up in your life so you can see what that was really about. Have it again.
Universal forces are in place to help you out. You just have to set the table and get out of the way. Okay, Zen DeBrücke, you've been incredible. Thank you very much for being on Angels, Positivity, and Love. It's been a super big treat to have you on. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Michael. You're so fun. Remember, go to fearfreeexperience.com and type in Michael and you'll get the free course. And it's been so fun and I just love it. Thank you so much.